Well, welcome everybody to DoShitters Sharing Shit, where we come to talk about the creative process of our guests. Here today with us, Meera Lee Patel. Thank you so much for joining us.
You.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to spend this hour with you all.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
as
Well, we
always, we like
always
to start with this card that is the name of our cards. That is do shit. To know a little bit about your shit. What is the shit that you do? And
Sure. I'm a writer, an author, and an illustrator. And so far in my career, I have written books and journals to help people discover more about themselves and help themselves feel connected to themselves, to each other, to the world, their environment. And more recently, I'm beginning to also direct my work into children's literature, which is something I've always wanted to do, but been too afraid of pursuing. And after I have two small children, and after I had my first about 4 years ago, I decided, I'm trying to raise a fearless girl in this world. I have to be a good model for her. And I'm going to start doing the things that I want and going after my dreams. So I started kind of moving in the direction of children's literature. And so now I do both. I write books for adults and for children.
That's so good. And it must be as well when you know that you want to be that example for them, but also put out in the world stuff that you know that through your art you can also help to educate them through something that you have a talent for and that it's a language that you know how to use. So it's very beautiful that you can converge those things.
Absolutely. I feel very lucky to be able to do what's in my heart, to find avenues for it, and then also to be able to share that work with the world.
Very
and
nice.
it's so nice that you share this idea that sometimes we fear to do something that we really want to do. And the fear stops us. And this is one of our idea to create this game is like the idea to not stop from fear, which is very, very often what we do, and to do and pursue the things that we want to and do shit, even if it's not perfect. But it's hard sometimes because the fear stops us to do our love project. And I'm so glad that you decided to go for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I am. That fear, I agree. I think it permeates all of us creatives. And it's that, I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but it's that idea of perfectionism, where if the thing I make doesn't look like the thing in my head, then I failed. But actually, you've only failed if you're not trying at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, since you opened that door, then let's go into speaking more about your creative process. So you can choose a number from 1 to 10, and we'll see where to start.
Oh,
Okay,
wait a
I will
second. Before you say, we don't know what is underneath, but I like to do that because that way we surely don't know what is underneath.
That
So
way, nobody can say that we knew which one was where.
no, it's not prepared. So let's go.
Okay, I will choose number 3.
Number 3. Let's see. Into the number 3, we
Ooh.
have the money flow. This is the card that it reminds us that sometimes projects need money, need a client, need something to come up eventually to the public. And this is a question about how do you find the money, how do you find the clients, and how do you find the way of doing your projects a reality that sometimes and most of the times need money to do it as a reality.
Sure. To be honest, I approach money in my business very pragmatically. So I am working really hard to become comfortable doing work that maybe isn't in my heart or that I don't feel 100% connected to with who I am or where I am in my life right now. If it is helping to either support me and my family or support work that I do want to do. So I think there is a value. I do feel that I've built my career enough to a place where I don't have to do absolutely anything for money. And I feel lucky to have, kind of worked up to that place. But I do still tend to look at an incoming project, and seeing what kind of value does it offer me. And sometimes the only value it offers me is financial, and that's okay with me. If it is supporting some part of my life that is important to me, such as my well being, it's allowing me to pay doctor's bills, or it's helping me feed my children, or it's giving me money for this self published work that I want to create that I'm not sure anyone's going to buy, but it's really in my heart and I need to make it. Then I think that project that's helping financially support that work is worth it.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
artists end up finding themselves in those situations where you are going to have to be pragmatic about making sure that at least that there is a money that can keep you afloat, and then that can flow in through different projects that is going to allow you to have mental space and time, ideally to be able to focus your energy also in other stuff. And many people have to build up their careers starting by taking things just because you have to take it because you need to be afloat and establish yourself
Yeah.
and do the shit that you need to do to pay the rent, no? But
Yeah.
then little by little gaining that possibility of, hey, I know there are some that I'm doing for this, and I know that there are others that I do for my heart because I know that it has to exist. But if I don't get that money flow, I won't be able to do that part and I won't be able to sustain myself. So
Right.
no, what's the point?
And you cannot make art, you can't make genuine art if you're in a place of desperation. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not meeting basic needs, you're not going to be able to make the work you want to make. I do think that there's a lot of language out in the world about integrity and about taking on work only that supports your integrity. And I think that language can be really like kind of discouraging and also dangerous for artists that are just beginning their careers, because it insinuates that if you're taking on work that maybe isn't completely aligned with your vision, then you're disrespecting yourself as an artist and you're devaluing your work. And I find that philosophy to be dangerous, and it leads to the starving artist mindset, where you're kind of accepting that you need to sacrifice yourself for your work. But I believe that if I don't exist and if I'm not functioning in a healthy way, then my art doesn't exist. So
Yeah, and in the end, it can be the people who can choose to only do the things that align with their integrity. I may be mistaken, and there may be other cases, but it feels like it's a privileged
yes,
position to be in, because if you can allow yourself to say no because of that, then it must mean that you have the financial stability not to have to worry about the rest. No.
right. Or yeah, you simply you don't share some of the concerns that other people, have hanging over them. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Money must flow, and we are going to see where this conversation flows to, towards which part of the process, which is the second card.
Okay, so I pick a new card now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will pick 7.
7. Let's see, number 7. Ooh, is it worth it? I love this
Ooh.
card. This is the moment in the process that is in the shithole. Everything is black. Sometimes in the process of a project, you are in a moment that you don't see anything. Everything is black, and you have this idea of, is it worth it to do this project? Is it worth it to keep pursuing this idea? Or how do you feel with this moment when you are in this moment? Or sometimes it's desperation that you need to keep continuing for this project, but sometimes it's that you need to step out of this project. So it's a tricky moment when you go through it.
Yeah, I think it can be a really discouraging moment. And I think for me, it's the moment where I either see kind of the lesson and the value in the process, even if it's not working out the way I hoped, or I can become really resentful for having taken on this project that maybe I took on for the wrong reasons. So I think it can go either way. And I think as I get to know myself more and what I want for myself more, my projects are falling more into the first category where I'm like, okay, it might not be working out the way I wanted, but I'm learning something. This is going to lead somewhere. If it's a failure, it's a good failure, right? I'm still falling in the right direction. But I think the first half, even until a couple of years, I was falling into the resentment pile a lot. And I don't think that it could have been otherwise, at least for me, because I think I was learning. I was learning what kind of career I wanted, and I was learning what I was willing to do for certain achievements that I wanted at the time. And I'm a different person now, so I can't really look back with regret. All I can say is that it's brought me here. And so even that, all those projects that fell in the resentment pile, they still led me here. And I like where I am. So it was worth it. Yes, it was worth it.
And can I ask you, because obviously different creators find themselves in this is it worth it moment and in different stages of the process, and it can be external shitholes or it can be just internal of you fighting with what you were hoping that you were doing. Is there anything that has helped you specifically, like when you were feeling in that shithole, to get out?
Kind of to get out of that emotional place, that feeling
yes.
I have one thing that consistently helps me is I tell myself, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this project. You don't have to do this work. You don't have to be an artist. You don't have to put yourself out there in the world all the time. Be vulnerable through your words, your writing, your illustrations. You don't have to. And so when I kind of take that pressure and those labels away from myself and I'm free to say, no, I don't want to, I always find myself saying, but yes, I want to. And that's how I know that I'm on the right path. I'm doing what I want to do, and it's just hard, and that's okay. It can be hard. Most things that we want are hard.
They are going to be hard at some point. Exactly. Yeah. You just hustle through it and go through it. Thank you. That's great advice. And sometimes when you take off the pressure from yourself of you don't have to do it, you just release a little bit of, hey, I'm here because I want to. So let's not.
Right. Yeah, nice. And comprehend that the process sometimes is hard. And for me, in every process and every project, there's a moment there is a shithole, there is a crisis. So to understand that this is part of my process, my way of doing the art, it's like, okay, now I'm in this point, it will pass, but I have to go through. So accepting that it will be there and it's inevitable, for me, it helps. Yeah.
I agree.
And sorry, go please, Meera.
Oh, I was just going to say, this is the first time this year, maybe last year, in the last 2 years, I've really become more comfortable with that kind of feeling like shit, feeling like I'm not good, I'm giftless, I'm not supposed to, like, all of those things come up. I think for most people, no matter where you are in your career or what achievements you have, like that self-doubt can crop up. And I feel like this year, specifically, I'm working on illustrating my first picture book. And that's like, I've worked so hard for so many years to get to a place where I have my first picture book to work on. And I've been so excited doing all the concept sketches and everything. And in the back of my head, I knew when it comes to the point where you have to start doing color studies and paint studies and actually figure out how you're going to paint this book, that's going to be awful. And now I'm here. And I'm like, oh
you
my
made
gosh.
it to your hell.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I suck. Like, I don't know how to draw. I don't know how to do this. How am I going to make this book? But I get a little bit of comfort from Mar, what you were saying, that I've been in this place so many times that I'm like, yeah, this is part of the process. I knew I would be here. I told myself, after you get through these first 3 stages, this is where you're going to be. And now I'm here, and I know I won't always be here, but I got to go through.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. And the image of the artist that since they're doing what they want to do, then their life must be all the time wonderful and they are happy with what they're doing. It's a fallacy.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Right. I agree. And I think it's really hard to be an artist because you have to be by yourself a lot. You have to be in your head a lot. For me, at least, I'm constantly battling myself in producing a single piece of work. And that's very difficult to constantly be kind of, against yourself in many ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And measuring yourself up to yourself constantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And where will the last card take us?
Let's do one.
Let's see. The one is where to start. This idea of the little octopus into the space and thinking, where should I start? Sometimes it's very hard when you have an idea, but the immensity of all that we were talking about, all this process that you know that it will be at some point difficult and it will be like a roller coaster. And how do you start? How do you find something that it's firing you up to start and go for it?
I have two different ways. So one way that I love is to read a poem. I feel very connected to poetry, and I find most of the time when I'm reading poems, and I like a wide variety of poets, I just feel so inspired by the words and by the form and how somebody chose words so succinctly to paint a particular moment in time. And I'll find that will really motivate me to capture that poem visually in a drawing. And the other thing that I've recently started doing, I'm doing kind of a drawing exercise every day for 30 days just to see what is different about me after 30 days, kind of like that kind of exploration. And on the left side of my sketchbook, I do 4 kind of thumbnails. And on the right side, I choose one and I do a bigger drawing. And I find that 3 out of the 4 thumbnails are just awful, or it's the same thing. Like I drew the same thing 3 times. But that 4th one, I'm like, oh, like I would never have, this is not an image that would have ever come to me had I not sat down and forced myself to make 3 bad images. And it's the same, it's just you're kind of skimming off the top half of your brain and getting to that good stuff underneath. So I almost feel like in this exercise, I spend 30 minutes skimming off all the anxiety, like in my head. And then I'm able to kind of tap into real good or, valuable creativity. So thumbnailing, it sounds so simple. People have talked about it for years and I never really did it at all, but I found the value of a thumbnail.
Nice. And that it's working as well for you to get used.
Yeah.
Marta.
No, I was saying that it's very nice because it's a nice way to get your creative juices flowing, and
Cool.
as well of when you do that 2-3 times, in the end you're gonna want to do something a little bit different, and suddenly something sparks out of there that you weren't expecting. So it's very interesting, and for obviously there are projects that you take on that come from clients and that come from someone else, and there are other projects that you hold closer to your heart that you want to put together. When you choose that you want to start one of those projects, like what is there anything that makes you know that you want to pursue that project in particular, and where do you start when you want to go that route?
I think if an idea keeps coming back to me, which happens to me, like I don't feel like someone who has hundreds of ideas, but I have, I know myself well enough to know like what themes I am kind of continually preoccupied with and that interest me and I want to explore. And then I have a couple of, it could be a line in a poem I've written, or it could be the poem itself, or it could just be an image but I have a couple of things that keep coming back and that almost want to be made. And that's how I know that I should pursue that and figure out what form is this story going to take, and let's start making it. And I'm sorry, I forgot the second part of that question.
How do you get it started? How do you
Oh,
kickstart it?
sure. I can give you a real example.
Yeah, sure.
I wrote a poem 2 years ago, when I was in graduate school, about motherhood. And at the time that I wrote it, it kind of just came out. And that's not something that happens to me very often. I'm very analytical, and I feel like I am very process oriented. And I sit down and I have the idea and I do the outline and I do the sketches, and it's almost like mathematical. It doesn't feel very fluid, or artists talk
Spontaneous.
about having, yeah, they talk about having flow. Like, I'm not someone that, I feel like I'm too tense to feel flow. So I'm trying to be less tense. But this poem just came out, and it's been almost 2 years since I wrote it, and I'm still thinking about it, and I want to rewrite it, and I want to make it something I'm really proud of. And in the last couple of weeks, things have been starting to come together. A very small indie publisher is interested in me developing it into a larger story, or maybe a book. Drawings for it are coming into my head, and I'm starting to make sketches. And I think one thing that I've learned, and I think having children, like kind of having such a big part of my life taken up by people who are not me, has forced me to become okay with a slower way of working. And I think the upside to that is that some of my ideas have a longer time to kind of incubate and mature. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think what I'm able to do with that poem now, after 2 years of sitting on it, is going to be a lot more meaningful and deliberate than had I tried very quickly, when I wrote it, to just make it into something so I could have it out in the world and have people's eyes on it. And the
Yeah.
reason for why I'm doing it is different too, right? Because not because it's motivated by an external element, by other people or validation or anything like that, but it's being pushed out internally. I have to make this. I still want to make this. And so that feels good too, because it's about me and about making myself happy with my work, not about making somebody else happy with my work. So
Absolutely.
that's
And
been,
I think that it's very beautiful that you were able to, on one side, just create that poem in the freedom of just doing it because you wanted to put that feeling out there and that element out there. And that's a great start to just do the thing. And you always, if it's a topic or a theme or something that's very important to you, you can always revisit that thing that
right,
you've done and
right,
expand it however you think is needed, or rewrite it or review it, no?
right. I totally agree. Yeah.
And I find it so curious talking about with creatives and seeing their point of view, because you were talking about when you create that sometimes it's in a tense way, and then the other point of view from the people outside is like your illustrations doesn't seem at all tense. They seem so flowy and so I don't know. It's so funny to see that sometimes oneself is feeling another story inside, and then from the outside you cannot see that. It's impressive. Mm.
Yeah, and I think also, Mar, like that says a lot about like just what the internal experience of making work is like for individuals, right? Because that it's almost like the work, that tenseness isn't about the work or even um about making the work. It's more just about me and my
Mm.
expectations of myself, and
Mm.
the standards we place on ourselves as artists and the pressures we put on ourselves. And almost like if we can learn to kind of alleviate some of those, what happens to the work? Does it become even more free? Does it become even more creative? Are we able to make more of it? I mean, I'm interested in those questions, and I'm trying to kind of fight myself a little bit less. It's not
train
easy.
yourself to train yourself to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
To relax. And
trust
sometimes
yourself.
perhaps
Exactly. Yeah.
the work doesn't change. Perhaps it's just that you change and the way of
Yeah.
doing it and approaching, and it's also nice to have a different approach. But I can absolutely relate to this tenseness, so I feel so related.
Nice. Well,
Well,
we've gone through these 3 cards of the process, and now we're going to go to the part of the interview that leads us to a reading, where you're going to be able to select one of these 3 maps. So you can choose to do the reading about whatever you want, if it's more broadly like your artistic career, or if you want to ask about one of these projects that you are working on. So the different kinds of readings that we can do is past, present, and future, which is more of a macro view, like where I've come from, where I'm going, and a little more broad. The other one would be a little more specific and targeted, which is the pros and cons, and it's about it. Well, sometimes people use it like, should I take that job in Paris and move my life there, and just use it to evaluate like what's good, what's bad. And then we also have the how to combat the shithole, in the case where you want to explore the depths of the shithole and talk
Yeah.
about your fears and your way out. So
Yeah.
you can choose whichever you prefer.
I think I'll do the first one, the past, present, future one. Yeah, that one's so interesting to me.
Very
so
nice.
we'll take this one. Do you want to explain a little bit your question, or do you prefer not share anything? Feel free.
Is it very broad in general? Is it about the past, present, and future, about a specific project, or about the?
I'll do more of a broad, not a specific project, but I think where I started in my career is so different from where I feel I'm headed. And I don't know what kind of answer, like the future is untold, but I guess I'm interested in seeing if, like, how much of it will be unexpected. Because I know where I'm going, but is that where I'm going to go?
And how many times has life surprised you already and taken an unexpected turn?
Quite a bit.
The unexpected is just a part of the
Yep.
of the whole game, right?
Yeah.
Very nice.
I find myself like wanting it more and more. Instead of wanting things to go exactly according to plan, I find myself being like, I hope there's more unexpected.
Yeah. I mean, because we can find ourselves pleasantly surprised by the unexpected, which is it's already more than
Yeah.
Well,
So
Mar will do now 3 piles. Go ahead. Yeah, Mar.
And then you have to choose one. Number 1, 2, or 3.
Okay, I'll choose 3.
The 3. Okay. So I'll choose this pile. And then we will put the card map in the card map position. And it says where to put the other ones. So this card will be the main topic. This one will talk about the past, present, and future, the unexpected. And then to write a conclusion. Let's see. Now it's the moment where I feel so nervous, like, oh, let's see. Hopefully it's good. So the main topic, what are we talking about? Where to start? Again.
He shuffled and there's only one of these cards out of the 84.
What does it mean?
Like this idea of having all the possibilities. Like perhaps you were talking about this idea of where it will be the future, and this is not bad or good, is only the question itself. And this idea of all the possibilities around because you don't know where to start, and perhaps sometimes it's always a start, kind of, in your path, because if you feel that you like the uncertainty and the surprises of the universe, then it's kind of every time it's a start, a new start, and a new path. So
Right.
this card might explain that.
Yeah.
And I also feel like from what we were saying before and what you were sharing, that now that you are exploring this new part of going in the direction of doing children's books and stuff, that in the end it is like a new start for you, and that it's a moment of of taking a new avenue in some ways. I don't know if you feel like it is something that you are putting on your first path and towards those milestones.
I do. I feel like it's a new door that I'm walking through, and it feels, frightening. Of It feels frightening when I think about the expectations, but when I can put those on pause or even get rid of them and just think about the fact that I'm walking through a new door, it feels incredibly exciting. And
Yeah.
everything is possible, and it can go in any direction, and they all seem like they'll be great directions. So,
Yeah. And I think that as Mara was saying as well, if you're someone who gets like sparks from getting something new started and something, this card in the end, there are some people who see this card and feel like, oh my God, starting something, it's awful. I don't know how to go that route. But when you feel like you're an explorer and you want to go and just build that shit that you want to do, the where to start is like the, ooh, no,
yeah,
let's get
yeah,
this going.
yeah, I agree.
Nice. And you're getting it going. So
I'm
that's
getting
the main topic. We are getting it going. And where are we coming from? What's the
So
past? What's
the
in the
past.
past?
What was the past? Reflection of the journey. This is
Ooh,
the card where you pause and stop. Perhaps it was not in the past, and perhaps it's something more near here. But this idea of stopping and reflecting of what you have achieved, what do you want to go. So this idea of a reflection, just looking at what you did, your path till now.
would you like me to reflect on it openly?
It's
Yes.
it,
You
no.
you
It's
can.
you
You
can
can
if
if
you
you
want.
want. It's just it's saying that this is in the past, and for me I always try to combine as well the cards that come out in the reading. So it feels like recently in the past or in the past you have reflected on the stuff in your career that you know that are working for you, and the good thing is that you've built enough to be able to look back and see. I think that you have to have gone through different journeys to be able to really l- look back and evaluate what you want. So if you want to share anything that you say, okay, yep, there are some things that now I'm a different artist, I've reflected on stuff that I want to leave out or pursue more openly, no?
Yeah, I think that I have done a lot of. It seems like the last couple of years for me have been about rebuilding and a little bit of hibernating, a lot of reevaluating, taking stock of what I have, what I've built, what of it I want to keep carrying, what I want to leave behind. So it's been a great deal of reflection, and I think that I have learned that as I change and my values change, it's okay. Like, it doesn't mean, we were talking about earlier about resentment and projects and whether they serve us or not. Like, everything I've done so far has served the person and the value that I held at the time. And so it's okay that that changed. I'm different now, and what I want for my life is different now. And so it's okay for the goals to change and for your kind of vision for yourself to change. Um, I think that can feel really disorienting when you're like, I thought I always wanted this, and all of a sudden, I don't feel, or I built this life because it's what I thought I wanted, and now I don't want it. And that's okay. It's okay to start
Yeah,
over, like the last card, and it's okay to change. So
yeah.
I do feel
and
very
I,
much like I'm
and
in that space.
and I think that you're so on point when you're saying that it's okay to change and realize it afterwards, because in the end, when we're starting that journey, we haven't walked the miles and we haven't done the walk to be actually to know exactly what it was that you were hoping to build. And when you end up building it all, that's when you really have like the full picture and the full context of what you were going towards. And hey, and you built it, and nobody's going to take that away from you.
Right.
And also what I'm reading in this card in the past is that the kind of work that you did or that you have done till now, your books are kind of a reflection of the journey. It's kind of a card that could represent very well of your books, that is kind of reflecting on oneself and the journey of life. So it's kind of a very inner work. So might be that in the past, this was your kind of work. Maybe in the future, yes or no, or maybe in a different path, but it seems a reflection of your kind of work till now.
I think so too.
And let's see the present.
Let's see.
Where are we?
Now it's the card of advice. This card is a reminder that sometimes when you have doubts or something new, or you need something from the exterior to tell you a little bit, somebody that is doing something similar, that you need this advice or this hand, somebody that is exterior. Perhaps it's the client or it's the publisher or a friend. What?
Or mentor.
A mentor, yes. Some colleague, no? This idea of sometimes we need somebody from the outside to tell us something. And perhaps in this moment that you need this hand that is telling you a tip or an advice or something. I don't know if it's something that you feel related to that or...
I think I have gotten a bit of guidance in recent years, and I think that, you know, most of it all points back to the same thing, which is me, which is not looking outside of myself for advice or guidance, but learning, you know, I've been trying really hard to sharpen my intuition, which really means just learning to hear myself again. And that is something that I've been wanting to do for myself, because I think that relying too much on external sources to kind of not only validate me, but to reassure me that I'm on the right path has led me to feel very dissatisfied with different parts of my life. And so I'm learning to instead rely on myself and trust that I have the necessary intelligence and experience to make the decisions that are right for me. So that is honestly the advice, the voice that I've tried to listen to the most recently is my own.
I love that idea of sharpening your intuition as a way of being able to take your own advice. I wonder, especially since you've been doing this work, is there different aspects of your life, of your creative life now, where you find that it is useful to have that selection of friends, people who care about you, even I don't know how old your kids are, but advices that you feel that are going to be useful to you, and where you feel that having that tribe and those people is going to be beneficial for you?
I will say that I'm not sure I fully understand the question. I do have a group of people with, you know, whom I trust. I trust their advice. I trust that they understand my values and support them. And therefore, when they're offering advice, I can trust that advice.
Okay. I mean, you're not going to depend. Obviously, it's not the people that you're going to ask whether the stuff that you're doing is up to your standards, because only you are going to be able to know that. But there are other things where you know that they're going to want your you're good in mind, and they are
Yes.
going to be those people that when you need to reach out
Yeah,
to ask are going to be there.
absolutely. And I think that that community is really important in moments of self-doubt, like when you can't rely on yourself. Am I, not only maybe I don't have the answer or I don't know what to do, but I also maybe feel very emotional about something and can't trust how I'm thinking in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's important to have that sounding board, somebody who knows you well, who can kind of redirect and say, this is what I think is going on right now. Like, do you think this is true?
Yeah. And even the sounding board, as you were saying, of at least I'm going to have to express it outside of myself and see
Hmm.
what.
Hmm.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mm.
And where are we going, Mar? Because now the good thing is
Future.
that she is learning to listen to herself for advice, which is a very good advice for anyone
Yeah.
who's listening. Listen to yourselves.
Yes. And the future. Interesting. Lost.
Hmm.
That sometimes this one is kind of what you were saying about the uncertainty and a lot of paths, because this octopus is in the middle of the ocean of the universe, and with a lot of the stairs that for us is a symbol of the paths that can be
And the
for
milestones you've
the
built.
milestones. So it's one very similar to this one. So it's like where to start, and then when you start, sometimes you have so many options that being lost also it can be very tricky to be lost, but at some point it gives you a lot of creativity also, because then you don't know where to go, and then it's this idea of uncertainty that you can do whatever you want, or you can choose multiple things. So it's this idea that perhaps you will get lost, which is not a bad thing to be, to find some other paths.
Hmm. I think it was, before we started this, I was saying like, oh, I hope the future is unexpected. So it seems like I'm going to get lost and it's going to be unexpected.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like you're a person that doesn't mind getting lost.
Hmm.
No?
No, I think sometimes it feels right,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
I think it is it has a very negative connotation, and people believe that it has a rootlessness, and it has the kind of idea that you don't know what you're doing. And I think that I used to feel averse to it because of those connotations. And now I see it more of like kind of the starting over aspect that we were discussing, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just an opportunity to be somewhere new. And I
Yeah.
want to be somewhere new over and over again throughout my life. So I think I
Yeah.
welcome that.
Yeah. And the good thing is, as Umar was saying, we also um share this perspective of not going in that pessimistic connotation that it has
Mhm.
always had, because it feels like then everything that you did doesn't count and now you're lost. And it's like, no, it's there. I did it. I did this milestone and I created this and I created this other thing, and I'm just allowing myself to not follow the straight line and the straight
Yeah.
path, and just going and letting myself be surprised as well by what may
Yes.
come.
Right. I
Mm.
agree. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm excited.
So it's a
Okay,
good
so what's
future
to wrap,
to
Mar?
wrap a
What are we
conclusion.
gonna wrap with?
Mm. Hmm. Interesting. We become what we pretend.
Ah,
This idea of the octopus trying to be taller than they are because the others are taller, and at one point
mhm.
they will be taller as well. So this idea that sometimes we don't believe in new paths, and perhaps the imposter syndrome comes and you don't feel like whatever label you want to achieve, but you have
Yeah,
to put yourself the label before
yeah,
you become that label and feel okay with that label. But sometimes it's like you need to pretend first and go
yeah,
towards that path that perhaps it's frightening and it's new and it's something that imposter syndrome comes, but to pursue it, it's really nice. And you were talking about this new path of children's book and illustrations book, and sometimes you feel like it's new, but then it's like you will become that. So you already are, even if you don't feel.
Yeah, I love this card. I feel so happy that this card exists. It's so special, you know. Can I tell you guys a quick story?
Yes,
Sure.
of course.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, she's 3, and she lost her lovey last weekend, and she's had it since she was born. She sleeps with it every night, and we lost it while we were out and about last weekend. And she kept asking me, what if we never find him? What if we never find him? And I said, well, if we don't believe we're going to find him, then we probably won't. Because whatever you believe, like your action follows that. If we believe we're going to find him, we'll keep looking for him. We won't give up hope. We'll keep searching. And I am someone who I think hasn't always believed, because I felt that the proof should exist before I can let myself believe in it, right? So it's almost like I have to prove to myself I can be a successful children's book author before I'll let myself say, like, oh, I'm going to be a children's book author. And I found that that's really changing, where I'm saying to myself, like, oh, I believe I can do something.
I'm a children's book
Yeah.
author. I am right now.
Yes.
That belief like feels as good as actually becoming the thing, you know? Where almost like even if it doesn't happen, it just feels so good to believe in yourself and to say, like, yeah, I got it. I'm going to do it, or I'm going to try at the very least. And so I love this part. It feels very accurate to where I am right now.
I'm so happy.
That's
Such a nice story.
so good.
Yes, and I do believe in that. That sometimes if you don't believe it in advance, the way that you put it, it was so good, because sometimes we do it in reverse. Unless it's
Right.
done and it's proven, I won't believe. And sometimes you need to do it otherwise it won't be done
Exactly.
if you don't believe it in advance. So it's very, very interesting point of view.
Yeah, it is. It's very interesting because I think that belief shapes your whole brain, right? The direction you're looking in, the actions you take, and how you behave, how you speak, like all of that matters. So it's like a necessary
and it
foundation.
changes. Yeah, and it changes your perception of yourself. If you start talking to yourself and allowing yourself to feel that, then you're going to start behaving like that, and you're going to be doing it and becoming that. And just because nobody has given you any external validation and you haven't published that thing yet, or you haven't whatever, it doesn't mean that you can be it and walk that path anyway until you are, you know.
Yeah.
Until
Absolutely.
you are according to the rest of the world, because you will already be doing it. And when you're doing it, you're it. You're it.
Right.
If you're doing it, you're it.
Yes.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very nice
Well,
reading. It's kind of uncertain, but with a lot of surprises and different paths, I think. So it's nice.
Exciting.
And I think that it brings like a very beautiful see through into seeing how you approach starting, like everything that you've built out of that reflection, to be able to find the advice in yourself and seeing all that, and being okay with, hey, I know that I'm going to get lost in this or whatever, but I know that I'm going to be, believing in myself, and that even if at some point I don't know where I go, I'll become what I want to, what I'll be pretending to be during a while. I don't know. It's it was a beautiful sneak peek into your creative process and your relationship to the art that you do.
Thank you. I love that. This has been so wonderful. Like very interesting for me, and very exciting, and also very just very, is wholesome the word? I don't know. Like it has felt very healthy for me. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
That is so nice. Well, in your honor, when we release this interview, we will do a discount for people who want to get the Oracle for themselves, which will be the Meera discount in your honor. And I don't know if there is anything that you feel that you've left unsaid about your process, or if there's anything that you would like to make public where people can find you, or whether you want to recommend a poem, whatever.
Well, I guess I will recommend my newsletter. I write every week, and there's a poem every week. So if you like poetry and you want to read good poetry and find new poets, you can subscribe to my newsletter. You can find it through my website at meeralee.com. And my newsletter is really where I'm sharing my process, my new work, what I'm up to, a little bit of, I write a lot about motherhood and how that affects my process and my creativity, and the stories that kind of I'm collecting and hoping to put into books one day. I'm a little bit less on social media. I just can't keep up with it emotionally or physically, but I love writing. So that's where you can find me and my books and everything. And when the episode comes out and the discount code is up, I'll also be sharing that in my newsletter for all my readers.
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you. And I think that
so
the newsletter is a wonderful way to keep things getting out there and not being so crowded by what social media can be sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. It's been really nice.
Yes.
And
Well,
thank you so much for opening up so much about your process. It has been so nice to listen to you and to learn from you. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, it's been wonderful to see you and Mar. I haven't seen you since I actually saw you.
Yes.
It's really nice. I'm so happy you reached out. I know.
Well, thank you very much, Meera, and good luck with these projects. We're really looking forward to knowing more about them and seeing them out in the open.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.